It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level. Second level gaming. Second level.
Welcome to podcast, the official Level 2 podcast, episode 4. That is 4. That is cuatro if you speak Spanish, or
You're not
cat if you speak French.
You're not Deegan today.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
It's cuatro
I'm
if you
not.
speak Spanish.
That line makes me laugh every time I hear it, and I don't know why, because it's so
Good ad lib.
dumb.
It was a good ad lib.
It was just like,
Yeah.
that's whatever if you speak Spanish. So, Tom, what have you been up to this past week or so? Let's start off with, we had a special guest today.
Yeah, we did. We had
So we're recording this on Friday instead of Tuesday.
This is Friday, and it'll be up on Monday, so we're closer to our actual podcast release than normal, which means we have to work harder to get it done in time. But no, we had a special guest today. Basically, we have our good friend Matissa, who is a coworker of ours, and Matissa's son Barry turned 16 today, and
today, as in the day we're recording.
The day that we were recording, yeah.
Friday.
And basically, she kind of reached out to us and said, hey, Barry, he likes your show. He loves video games. He doesn't really, have a lot going on as far as birthday is concerned. Although, at the time that she asked us, she didn't know that his team was going to go to the state champions.
So we had a little bit less time than we thought.
Yeah, so they got to go to do a championship game today, which was
Here's the hope, and by the time this goes up, they won.
Let's hope they won, yeah.
I put an annotation. We'll ask Matisse if they won or not.
I have no idea. I don't even know the team name, but go
it was raining.
Barry.
It was raining, and Tom was like, they're going to play football? I was like, yeah, Tom, they're going to play football.
Yeah, I'm a delicate flower. But yeah, so Barry came over for a couple hours this morning, and his sister Destiny, Matissa, and they joined us for a VR sort of session
experience.
None of them had tried it before, and they all had. I hope they had a really good
reactions.
time. Yeah, very different reactions.
So chill.
Barry was just completely calm for the whole thing. Matissa was
all over.
Matissa looked like she was terrified, and Destiny was terrified for sure. But we're gonna put together a special video for those guys, which we'll put up as a Friday video for you guys.
This Friday.
It should be this Friday.
The week this is released.
Of just when Barry came to visit Level 2. It was good. It was a fun time. We had a lot of problems with our own recordings after today. We've lost a lot of footage today.
We recorded a game
super bummed out
called Time Machine VR, which I had a blast playing. I highly recommend it. I don't know if we're gonna try and re-record. I think we don't know.
Yeah,
maybe.
it's weird with VR because it's that initial reaction that's the best part.
Good.
But Keegan really enjoyed that game, and then we had this weird thing happen with the Elgato where the second that the game launched, it went black.
Yeah, the
and
audio.
It recorded everything.
Yeah,
it was just black screen. Yeah,
which is I've never had before. I've had it where signals dropped, or we've had it where me being dumb, and
yeah,
hitting the damn button a few times.
And
that is, I told Tom we have moments where we're like, oh, we know what we're doing. Then we have moments like that. We're like,
yeah, we were super professional getting this podcast ready, and then we were just like, remember when we lost all that footage earlier today?
Yeah.
Like for a second we felt cool, and then we were like, no, we're so stupid.
We're still dumb.
But yeah, so we lost a little bit of footage today, which we're super bummed about. We did get some good footage.
We did.
So we're gonna put together a kind of a fun new style VR video for you guys.
It's gonna be released in 2 weeks from when this goes up.
Yeah. We won't talk about it. We'll just let you see it when it happens.
Yes.
And
I'm excited.
It looked cool. I liked it.
Yes.
We're stoked for you guys.
Yes. It's the first one we're going to have, not that we don't want Jordan, but it's the first one we're going to have that is just us.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Because a little behind the scenes, we recorded all those ones with Jordan. He didn't come over, 5 weeks in a row?
No. One day, a lot of recordings.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we were ahead of ourselves, and now we're kind of catching back up to ourselves and feeling the pressure a little bit. So we're trying to get ahead of ourselves again, because it's definitely a way nicer place to be.
We've also had a few things going on in our personal lives that have...
We have, yeah.
Put a little...
Yeah.
I don't know what the word is into
finicky.
Recording. Yeah. But,
yeah. So,
anyways,
I mean, that was our day together.
Yes. What about before today?
Before today,
What did you do before today?
as usual, if we're discussing like TV shows and games and things like that, I was playing Time Machine on VR and I really enjoyed it, and I recommend that game.
We discussed it and
to
again,
everyone.
The trailer doesn't do that thing justice.
Not at all. If you have a VR headset and you have $30 to spare, and a lot of you do because they had that $100 get $15 credit thing recently. I would
got one
highly
for level 2. I was like, did I spend? I obviously spent $100.
Yeah, I was surprised I'd spent $100.
Yeah,
but I'm not
that's what
complaining.
happened. Well, because we think about how many
monies.
VR games we bought. Though.
That's true.
It adds up.
Yeah,
I don't know what the time frame was. That was my issue.
Yeah, I had no idea. I thought it was like if you signed up for the credit card, you got $15, but apparently it was a whole other
whole other thing.
As far as TV shows, me and my wife started a new one. This week, like every time we start a new show. How to Get Away with Murder. Have you seen that?
I have.
Yeah, it's a Shonda show, as one of our good friends, Honest Kiddis, likes to call it. It's a Shonda show.
How to get away with murder.
Yeah, well,
FYI.
I believe you. But Shonda, I don't know her last name. Is it Shonda Rhimes? Something like that. She's the chick that does Grey's Anatomy, How to Get Away with Murder, Scandal. She does all those shows. And so my wife sort of picked it on a whim as something to watch. And it's pretty cool. I like it. It's
on Netflix? On where?
It's on Netflix. It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix?
Yeah. But it's a little corny here and there, but overall, it's enjoyable. So yeah, that's been
your
week.
So my week has been quite fun. I'm going to start out with the good, and we'll go to bad after that.
Okay.
So the good is I've actually not been watching too many TV shows because college basketball season has started. There's a 24-hour tip-off. I'm going to take my phone off here because it's going to vibrate, I have a feeling, at some point. Be a little bit more professional. But there's a 24-hour tip-off for the college basketball season that happened on ESPN.
What is a 24-hour tip-off?
24 hours straight of basketball. So it's just different games that happen throughout.
Okay, so not actually playing basketball for 24 hours straight.
No, it's different games throughout, which is weird because I can't remember who I was watching, but 8 a.m. was their game. I was like, that would, because your body is so used to playing like afternoon, evening games that would throw your.
Oh, so they forced the teams to play every, I guess, 90 minutes, 2 hours. I don't know how.
Well, it's different. It's different teams,
right?
But it was all college basketball. So
but they say like you guys are playing this hour, you guys are this hour, you guys. Oh, that sucks.
So it was really fun to watch, and it ended with.
So wait, so I'm not done yet. So there are teams that play at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m.
But think about different time zones. So Hawaii would be in the morning because it's later there. So the game was played in Hawaii. So technically it was probably 10 or 11 their time, but it was like 3 or 4 here.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So time zones.
I'm with you now.
And then I think they had a game also overseas. I think they had one in China, which kind of helped with the time zone because that was the issue. But yeah, some of them did play real early.
Okay.
I would hate to do that as somebody who used to play basketball. But I watched a lot of basketball. It ended with Duke, Kansas, and Michigan State, and I can't remember who Kentucky, who are the 4 like powerhouses this year that are gonna probably compete for the championship, and they were really good games. I can't remember if Duke played. I think Duke played Kansas. Can't remember.
I like that you're looking at me as if I have any fucking idea.
It's been a blur. I watched 24 hours of basketball. I slept for a few of those.
I'm playing along in my interest, but yeah.
But no, it ended up really well. I love college basketball. I love college sports in general.
Okay. It's a weird thing about this country, isn't it? College sports.
My football team.
No one else does that.
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
We won this week as of recording this. Well, the last Saturday. I don't know about this Saturday because this Saturday hasn't happened. It's tomorrow. But we beat Texas A&M.
You're confusing me so hard. I'm too tired. We're recording this at the end of a session. Normally we record it at the beginning of a session, so we're both...
We had a special day.
Yeah, we had a special day, so we're both very tired. So I'm sorry if we are a little sleepy. But
I watched a lot of basketball. Ole Miss... Ole Miss sucks this year in football. They were quarterbacks after the season. So I kind of... I'm going to support them because I love my Rebels, but we're...
Your Rebels? Is that...
Ole Miss Rebels. That's what they are.
Like the Rebel Flag Rebels?
No.
Or?
Well...
That's it doesn't surprise me.
Colonel Reb. So let's get a little into this.
God,
so
here we go. All right.
So when I was in school, when I went to Ole Miss starting in 2009, Colonel Reb, who is a plantation owner, has been the mascot for the school for years.
He's a plantation owner?
That's what. Yes. He's a plantation. Remember, you're in the
Super
Deep South.
Racist. Okay.
So plantation owner. So that was the issue. So what happened was people protested.
As they should.
There's two sides of the argument. One was, why would you pick a school that has a plantation owner if you're against it? The other side was, well, you shouldn't be racist. Like, those were the two arguments essentially that went on.
Okay.
So the school decided to pick a new mascot because obviously they need to protect their image. They want to get as many students as they can from different parts. I'm from New York. I went to Ole Miss.
Right.
Most of them are from that area. Most of them are from northern Mississippi, up into Tennessee and Memphis area. That's where they're all. Most of the students come from that area.
Okay.
Because they get in-state tuition and all that kind of stuff. So the fun part when I was there, they were deciding what to call them. So there was a debate whether we were going to stay the Rebels because we have our defense is called the Land Sharks when we get a sack. So if you ever watch an Ole Miss game with me, they do this when they sack somebody. I don't know where it came from. There's some sort of reason to it. But Land Shark, they put the fins up. So they talked about being the Sharks. That got shot down quickly because it sounds real dumb. So they
Mississippi Sharks.
Yes. Ole Miss Sharks.
Ole Miss Sharks.
Well, technically Mississippi, but Ole Miss is what it's called. Because you go to University of Mississippi, you do not graduate from Ole Miss. Because Ole Miss is the party side.
It's as confusing to me as Missouri and Mizzou.
Yes. Same school, just culture.
Hmm.
So there was that going on. And then when I was there, they decided to keep the name Rebels. So then they had a mascot vote. And for a while, there's a petition to have Admiral Akbar because Ole Miss Rebels. It's a trap. We actually got as far as making an ESPN commercial. Like there's an ESPN commercial parodying Ole Miss students trying to get Admiral Akbar as their mascot. For obvious reasons, copyright. George Lucas said no.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can't just steal a fictional character and say, you're our mascot now.
George Lucas said no, so they had to go another route. So I'm very disappointed with the mascot they picked. It's weird because Colonel Reb will always be my mascot because that's who was there when I was there. It changed near the end of my time there. It's now a black bear, which Mississippi does not have black bears at all.
So it's really kind of...
His name's Rebel. He's Rebel the black bear. That's where the Rebel fits in. And I was like, come on, that does not make any sense at all. So it's like...
I mean, I guess they just... sometimes I wonder when it comes to mascots, if they just sit down and then just go through, like, what are cool animals that we could name ourselves after? Like, you got your sharks, your bears, like, it's like tigers. Like, it's always that sort of a thing.
There's a university, I can't remember who it is, but it's called the Gooey Duck. Do you know what a Gooey Duck is?
I don't.
I'm going to put a picture up on the screen.
Okay.
If I remember. I'm going to put a picture up on the screen
of a gooey
duck. Basically, it's a clam that looks like a dick. I'm going to pull up. Hold on. Let me pull it up. I got to show you this.
A clam that looks like a dick.
Yes.
It's brilliant.
I'm going to pull it up here real quick just so you can get the full experience.
And weirdly enough, clam being the common, what do you call it?
That's a gooey duck. So that's a mascot for a school somewhere.
What the fuck?
Tell me that doesn't look like a dick.
It looks like an elephant dick.
Yes. So that's a gooey duck.
I'm sorry for everyone on the audio version of this podcast. If you're on the audio version, if you're listening to this on iTunes right now,
we go.
Please,
Evergreen State is the name of the.
Please use your phone.
I'm going to use this picture right here.
Please use your phone to look up. Was it a gooey duck?
Yeah, it's spelled Geoduck.
It is a giant green taco penis.
Yes. Well, that's the mascot for the Evergreen State Gooey Ducks.
That is.
So that's probably
bizarre.
the weirdest mascot I've ever seen.
Okay.
So, but yeah,
great.
It's all black bear. There's the fun fact in all that is there's no black bears in the state of Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
They just kind of
picked the name of a scary animal.
Yeah, and said let's
Fair
go
enough.
with it.
Yeah.
So there's that.
So basketball.
So basketball. Yeah. So basketball's happening. Football season's kind of ending. Bowl season's going to happen here.
Hockey season's still going on, probably.
Hockey I don't care about as much. I mean, it's not my thing. Basketball is. I'm a big basketball fan.
Big news for St. Louis.
Soccer.
Soccer or
MLS.
Football.
So there's a verbal agreement. The problem I have with the verbal agreements is nothing's obviously set in stone, but it's a verbal agreement with the MLS to bring an expansion team to St. Louis. And as a soccer fan,
fast sentence you just said.
It's a verbal agreement with the MLS with St. Louis to bring an MLS expansion team to St. Louis. I said St. Louis and MLS.
What does an MLS expansion team mean? Does it just mean they're going to make another team?
They're making another team. So Major League Soccer is MLS.
I know that.
Okay, just didn't know. I didn't know where you got lost in that segment.
I know some things.
Expansion
Not
means they're adding. So the way it works, like in other leagues, so I think the last major league to have an expansion was the NBA. Do you know the Charlotte Bobcats? Probably not.
Well, see, I was wondering if that counted as an expansion because it was previously the Charlotte Hornets.
But the Hornets,
then the Hornets went to
moved.
North Carolina, right? Or somewhere like that.
No, Charlotte's in North Carolina, so they moved to Oklahoma.
Where did the Hornets
go? Well, they went to New Orleans initially because
New Orleans,
because they had issues, and then New Orleans had issues, so then they moved to Oklahoma City.
Because I supported the Charlotte Hornets
Yeah.
when I was a basketball player. Yes, 5'4" basketball player.
David Wesley? Was that who was on the team back in the
No,
day?
it was Muggsy Bogues, Glenn
you're
Rice.
You're going even older than that.
Glenn
okay,
Rice.
Okay.
Yeah, he
I
was
was
my.
going to say, because that's a little bit before when I would follow it.
Yeah. I was. I think Morning was on there at that time as well.
Because technically now the Charlotte Hornets are back.
Yeah,
Because the Bobcats are the Hornets.
Which was
But it's
surprising.
a new expansion. So the Bobcats are a new
weird.
team. They did not keep the existing team.
I feel like we've gone on a tangent here. Yeah.
But it's true.
It's a fun tangent.
So
But basically, St. Louis might get a football team. Yay.
soccer.
We
lost our football
I'll
team.
drink to that.
We lost our football team. We don't talk about football here. I don't care. I'm not a
No.
Rams fan. So
We lost our American football team.
Slight
and we
tangent
gained
again.
a football team.
In Madden 2017, you have to play the Los Angeles Rams as the first. Like they always do a prelude thing that you got to play before you can actually play the game, which is bullshit because I just want to play the game. And it's Los Angeles Rams, and all I could think of was Chad and Tim having to play as the Rams. As they were very happy when the Rams moved, to say the least.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Not been doing very well, though, have they? So,
Yeah,
you know.
but that's the good. I kind of went on a tangent there. Let's talk about the bad. We still got the bad.
That's
to talk
the good.
About. Yeah, we got to
Yeah.
talk about the bad.
The bad is that you
I cannot play
got
PlayStation.
hacked.
Yeah, I don't know how it happened. My account got compromised somehow, some
It's
way.
all those Chinese porn sites.
Yeah, on my PlayStation.
Yeah.
I logged in. First thing I noticed was my little avatar icon when I logged in was no longer.
What
Ratchet
was
and
it,
Clank.
by the way?
It was Ratchet and Clank before. It's now just some weird little symbol. I kept it the same.
Maybe it's the hacker symbol.
It could be.
That would be cool.
I kept it the same in case they ever questioned or wondered and all that kind of stuff. I'm assuming they have records of it, but I don't know what they keep track of. Sony is not very good with security. But basically, long story short, is I cannot access any of my games right now on my personal account. Anything bought on Level 2 Gamers, which is one we stream on, is fine. The problem with that, though, is the games like The Division and Elder Scrolls I bought on my personal account, even though I played them on Level 2, so I cannot make my PS4 my primary PS4. I've got a couple cases. I'm talking to Sony engineer. Turns out I got blacklisted. I don't know how. They don't know how.
Didn't they say you'd signed in from like 7 different countries in a week or something
seven
like that?
cities in 15 hours.
Yeah.
Somebody was using my IP to. So 2 things happened. One, they said there was a lot of activity on my IP address from different PlayStations. And the second one is they completely froze my account to protect it, essentially. And I was like, cool.
Because they didn't want them buying
Yes,
things.
which I didn't have any money. I've heard. So one of our friends, Matt, actually had somebody hacking his account. I don't know if they charged anything, but I know there's some going on right now where people are getting charged. Sony, as every other major company does, denies things until it gets to a certain size. And if it's a few hundred, like, whatever, we don't care. But I've been on the phone with a Sony engineer yesterday a couple times, and then I'm waiting for a call/email from them today at some point to say, hey, we fixed it.
You can have your account back now.
Yeah, last thing I heard is we don't know if we can fix it.
It's kind of weird. Like, I guess I wonder what there is to fix. I mean, essentially, don't they just give you back your account?
They can't
change your password or
the
something?
problem I'm running into right now is my IP being blocked. So the account is a whole separate
So
situation.
who blocked the IP? Sony?
Sony PlayStation Network blocked my IP.
Can't they unblock it?
That's what I asked, and the guy says, I don't know.
I feel
would
like
think
if
it's a
you can
switch.
do it, you could probably do
Yes.
the reverse of it.
That's what I was
If you
thinking.
can't do it, you're not very good at your job.
Yes. So one of the things, last conversations I had with the guy, I can't say too much because it's a personal matter and there's some things involved that I don't want to talk about in case Sony
Chinese
comes out.
porn.
Well, in case Sony comes in like, hey, you can't talk about it. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the
They were just on. There's a guy with his hand on the unblock button
Yeah.
right now, and he's
He saw
watching
the
this
podcast,
podcast, and
he's
he's
like,
like,
"Fuck that."
Oh, fuck that guy.
So basically, what was I going to say? I was going to say something. I completely forgot.
Your life sucks right now.
Yeah, pretty
but
much.
you can't play the Division high-end character, Elder Scrolls high-end characters because you've been
all.
locked out,
Which
which
I
sucks
can-
for streaming.
I'm hoping to get back into my account at least so I can play the games.
Hmm.
I got an email today saying my account has been activated again.
Hacktivated.
So that means I can get into it, but that does not mean I can make my PS4 my primary PS4.
Right.
So, and those of you who are going to say go online and do it, I can't. I'm guessing what happened was whoever took over my account used that to deactivate my PS4. And fun tip, 2 things. 2-step verification, turn it on. I did that immediately. The second thing is go to your Sony account online and name your PS4 something other than my PS4. That's the only reason I knew that it was not my PS4, because mine says Keegan's PS4 as like the name of it, and it was my PS4. I was like, that's not me. Like,
I like to live dangerously.
yeah,
I haven't done any of those things.
yeah.
I hate two-step verification. With
I do too.
I don't care what it's on. I fucking hate it.
Oh, I do
It's
too.
just so
but
frustrating.
It's way better than not being able to get into your damn account.
Yeah.
So-
I don't know how fussed I'd be about it. I mean, I would be fussed, but I figured, I'm not like...
You realize how much money I have tied up in that thing now? That's the other thing. Is like
Well, they're not going to not get you back.
they don't know. I mean, that's
Were they just going to say, fuck you, on all the hundreds of dollars that you spent over the years?
If you read what forums are saying with similar issues, that's basically what happens.
Oh.
So
Two-step verification, you say?
yeah, turn that shit on.
Maybe.
That's the
Let's
issue I
think
have.
about
Is I don't know what's going to happen,
All right.
and I'm hoping good things happen. So,
But yeah.
fingers crossed. By this time next week, I will be back into my account.
Yeah.
And I'll be back to normal.
And we'll let you guys know.
I hope they'll know if we stream or not, because I can't stream
Right.
on Sunday, so there may not be a stream on Sunday. You won't know. Well, you'll know before because the podcast goes up the day after.
We'll keep you informed
But, yeah, we'll
as
let you know. Follow us on Twitter.
to Keegan's goings on.
At Twitter or at twitter.com.
At Level 2 Gamers
Gamers
STL.
That's the words.
If you want to send your condolences.
Yes.
Cool.
So
moving on.
moving on.
Part 2.
What we're going to talk about today is something a little different. It's not going to involve games. We're not going to have the bonus question level.
We're not having
question,
a
whatever it's
patron
called.
question today. We will continue to do that. Good time to plug Patreon real quick.
Patreon.com/.
Do it. If you
STL.
want
There's a little bar that's going
more of this.
Or I don't know which way it goes.
But yeah, we had questions from James. We had questions from Drew.
Wheezy's is going to send us one.
Wheezy's going to send us one. But what we thought we would do today is we've had an interesting
Few weeks
in
in America.
The last podcast that we did was Election Day,
Yes.
right?
And we did not know the results.
We did not know the results because we recorded it in the morning. And Cody was here with us, and it was a good time. Yes. We've since had the results. Now,
Yes.
we want to stay bipartisan, and we don't want to get into politics, because politics has no place in video games.
Yes.
And you guys don't really probably care what our politics are anyway. The thing to know is that essentially we grew up differently, and that's part of the reason why we work so well together, I think.
Me and Tom, honestly, the last probably week, we've had some real conversations with each other. Kind of were like, this is why it works, because we respect each other's views and opinions, and we don't try and force them down each other's throats. But at the same time, we understand the other person. So that's life advice with Keegan. Just do that in general.
And that's by the way, that this is in no way saying that we are on different sides of the fence when it comes to politics. We are usually quite aligned, but at the same time, we have come from different upbringings, so we view
things differently
as far as fallout and that kind of thing. So what we wanted to talk about really was that upbringing and kind of the differences between me and you. Right.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the obvious one. I'm from America. You're from not America.
I'm from not America.
That's
the rest of the world.
This American knows.
I'm from not America.
Not America. You're from Hereford, England.
I am.
Did I say that
well
right?
done. Yeah. Well, technically from Leominster, but Leominster.
But you say Hereford.
I always say Hereford because no one knows where fucking Leominster is.
I don't know where Hereford is either. We should put a map somewhere of the UK.
Yeah, it's basically if you imagine a picture in your mind, if you will, England, the way that it looks on a map, and then
if you know what it looks like,
and then if you put a big dot right in the middle of that map, smack bang in the middle, then move it to the left slightly.
That's where you're from.
Yeah.
What do they call that? Because you don't
West
have
Midlands.
states. I was gonna say they have territories.
Well, technically it was Herefordshire. And that, yes, it is sure, not Shire, by the way, because that's fucking stupid.
You ruined my.
I'm not a hobbit. Well, that's debatable, but I am small and hairy. But yeah, well, hairy in the wrong places. But Hereford was on the border to Wales. It was in the middle of the country.
So the only reason I know where Wales is back in the day when I played. It wasn't even FIFA. It was another soccer game that I played on
Pro
N64.
Evo?
No, it wasn't Pro Evo. It was another one. It was some weird knockoff game that nobody else played. I rented the crap out of it.
Do you know the first soccer game? I hate saying that word. Do you know the first soccer game I ever played? Italia 94.
I was 3.
Yeah.
What system?
Dating myself. Genesis. Or Mega Drive. Yeah.
That's another difference.
Yay!
You
differences.
say Mega Drive, I say Genesis.
It was a pack-in, and it was Sonic and columns and Italia 94, which was a top-down.
So it wasn't isometric. It was literally
top-down. Great little game, actually. I liked it a lot. I would play it again. I don't know what was going on in Italia 94. I guess it was the European Cup or something.
Tied into something.
But yeah, so I grew up there, and I grew up in Leominster, which was a small town just outside of Hereford. But like I said,
when you say small town, how?
When I was growing up there, about 5,000 population.
So I grew up in a small town in Canada that's about the size. Well, I say I grew up there. I'll get my story here in a second, but
yeah, no, you're totally fine. You can interject. You're allowed.
I'm good at that.
But
God knows I can do that.
So obviously most of you are familiar with Brexit at this point and kind of what that looks like. I was there when the beginning of that happened, not Brexit, but in terms of us joining the European Union. And when we joined the European Union, what happened was basically all of Europe opened its borders to the rest of Europe. So they said...
Which sounds like a good idea.
It was a great idea. It means you could sort of freely travel from any country that you wanted to in Europe.
Your damn country didn't use the euro, though.
No, it wasn't that we didn't get to use it. That was the one thing that we requested that we didn't give up.
You didn't.
Yeah.
Which, obviously you know a little bit better than I would. But from an outsider's perspective, it makes sense because the pound is worth so much. Why would you kind of want to dilute it?
I mean, there was that. There's a lot of patriotism in England.
We call it patriotism in the U.S.
Either way. There's a lot of that. And
nationalism.
The Queen's Head means something to a lot of people. And I think it was, the same kind of shitty people that are kind of talking about Brexit now, Nigel Farage, people like that, those are the same people that were yelling, oh, we need to keep our currency. But that, I think, was a fight that was worth fighting for because, as we all know, the euro didn't do great. And even our poor buddies Ireland got suckered into that one. But we kept the pound stayed strong. And I, as a child, the main reason why I didn't want different money was frankly because I didn't want to have to learn different money.
Yeah.
It was all selfish.
So first off, can we talk about a pound versus a quid versus whatever the hell you guys call it? Because I've heard multiple different things and I don't know what they are. From my knowledge, what the hell? A pound, to me, I think of like a dollar. Like I equate it to
that
the
would
dollar.
be correct. However, it is in coin form.
Yes, but it's kind of like in Canada you had the loonie and toonie, so it'd be similar to a loonie, which is a $1 coin.
Okay,
it's a coin that's worth $1. It's like the Susan B. Anthony $1 coin.
Don't know any of those words, but yes, cool. I know who Susan B. Anthony is. I'm just kidding. But yes, a pound is a small gold coin. I don't know if it's gold or not, but it's golden styled. Bronze, maybe. I don't fucking know.
It's painted.
I'm not a metallurgist. I'm just a guy that knows what a pound is.
Unless he plays Elder Scrolls.
So, yeah, a pound is small circular coin. I feel like I'm diluting this too much. The common misnomer, that was the word I was looking for earlier, misnomer, is quid.
Yes, what is that? Because I've heard a couple of my English friends, mainly Scott from Shadazzle Show, use the word quid like it's 3 quid. It's 4. What the hell? Is that like? I didn't know. At first, I thought it was just slang.
It is. I think it's
like,
the same as like bucks. It's like it's $3.
Okay.
It's like I'm sure it comes from somewhere. I don't know if it's quid pro quo. I don't know if it's
is 1 quid £1.
Yes.
Okay, so it's just slang.
The even more funnier misnomer is squid, because it rhymes with quid, and if you say you got 3 squid, mate, and it just sounds a lot funnier. So yeah, so you got pound, quid, squid, all that. But
what are your coins? Like we have dimes, pennies, nickels, dollars.
It's almost embarrassing to say, but I'm starting to forget. It was 1p, 2p.
Those pence?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pennies. Yeah. So 1p, 2p, which 2p doesn't need to exist. 5p.
Back in the day, it probably did.
10p. No, there's no 25. There was a 20p. No 25, which is what threw me off with the quarters. So basically,
it's like
lots of coins.
It's like the metric system where it does it in tens, it sounds like.
Yeah. Well, no, it's 1,
2,
2, 5, 10, 20, 50.
So half.
Then a pound.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we have
no quarters.
Officially in the U.S., we have a penny, a nickel, a dime, a quarter. We technically have a $50. Nobody ever uses
I still don't
them.
know those names, I just go 5, 10,
yeah.
quarter. Quarter's the only one I know. because
you just went English on me.
I know. It's so weird. It's because because obviously I had to get a job when I came over here, and when I did, and I was dealing with American money, I was so thrown off to begin with. But now I almost feel weirder about English money than American money. To be honest, it's a weird thing to.
It's like when I get Canadian money that's colored. Like I'm so used to the colored money that the $100 bill in Canada is purple. Like it's not like
ours are
bright
different
purple,
colors too,
but it's
our notes are different colors.
Yes.
Green for 5, orange for 10, purple for 20. Yeah, and 50s.
I just know the 100 is purple because I thought it was cool that it was purple. And I came to the States and I was like,
I think we probably have £100 note. I'd never seen one. Weird. I heard recently that our 5, and so my dad came to visit, by the way, and
he still lives over there.
He does, and he told me that some of the £5 notes are now made of plastic, which
like a credit card.
Kind of, but like a thinner plastic.
All I can think of right now is like those gambling chips.
All I can think of is Coke heads. Loving it. Got a straw. Just roll it right up. Love it. So yeah, they've made life easier for Coke heads in England. But yeah, I grew up there.
Can we talk a little bit how, because we've brought it up before, but you've done music in the past. How did your upbringing? When did you get into rapping? That kind of, because it's going to sound really stereotypical, and I don't mean it to sound the way it's going to come out.
Do what you got to do.
Usually with white people, they're not very good at rapping unless you're Marshall Mathers.
Right. I was around before. No, I wasn't. Marshall Mathers was around in '97. Well, that's when he was. Sorry,
that's when he was taken off.
That's when he was still battling in '97. Yeah. But yeah, so it was close actually. I started in '99.
That's when my brother was born.
Yeah. So interesting that you ask. So yeah, it was never my intention. So I grew up listening to all kinds of different music, mostly rock music, to be honest. My first tapes were Guns N' Roses and Aerosmith. Those are the first two kind of cassette tapes that I owned.
My mom loves Steven Tyler.
Right. And yeah, I didn't even know who they were. Like I saw the album covers.
Was it Guns N' Roses Appetite to Destruction?
It was Appetite for Destruction.
At least it was the good Guns N' Roses album.
Yeah. And it was Aerosmith Greatest Hits Part 1. Because there's apparently more. They're so fucking arrogant. It's like, it's Greatest Hits Part 1.
Aerosmith,
we got some
I think,
coming.
is the only band that has released a single that's charted in the top 10 from 1970 to 2000.
Yeah. Pink was the last one, I think. Or was it Don't Was the thing? I don't know.
Pink,
that's my favorite.
I was thinking the singer Pink.
No, the song.
The song Pink.
It was great.
Yeah.
It's good video.
Yeah. That was not their last song. No. The last big one was I don't want to miss a thing. I can't sing. I don't close my eyes. I don't fall asleep 'cause I miss you, baby.
But no, I used to listen to a lot of rock. I started playing the guitar when I was younger, and I always wanted to be in a band, and that's all I wanted. So I was.
Did your parents encourage music? Because I grew up in a family. Yeah. My dad. We've said this before. My dad works in the music industry, so it wasn't required to play an instrument, but it wasn't. It wasn't forcibly pushed on you, but it was heavily recommended you play some sort of instrument.
My parents didn't really bring it up as a suggestion. Can I be honest with you and tell you what made me want to play the guitar? And it's going to be a little embarrassing.
You can be as honest as you want.
It's going to be a little embarrassing.
Say it directly to the camera.
Shit. Okay. All right. For those of you watching instead of listening.
Confession time.
You may remember back in the 90s, there was a show called Saved by the Bell.
Yes.
There was also another show that was very similar to Saved by the Bell called California Dreams.
Never heard of it.
No? Right. No. Someone out there has fucking heard of this show.
I also, when Saved by the Bell came out, I was a really little kid. So
right. Yeah, you're a baby, so I don't expect you to have seen this show. But California Dreams was basically like a complete rip-off of Saved by the Bell, right? Same kind of principle, different characters and everything.
Was it US made?
I believe so.
Okay. I
assume so, since it's called California Dreams, that it was made in the US, but I'm not sure.
Doesn't mean you could pull stuff.
So anyway, there's a character in California Dreams called Jake. Yes, I remember his name. And he had a white t-shirt and a black leather jacket, slick back hair, and he looked a little bit like Kevin Kline, but he's not Kevin Kline. And he played the guitar. And I saw him and I was like, I want to be him. And I'm this short, fat, white kid in England. I want to be a rock star. So
I think at some point everybody wants to be
I
a
think
rock star.
yeah, I think you're right. I think at some point
That's where
garage
band, Rock Band, and Guitar Hero did really well until they realized it was all fake.
Yeah, I mean it's weird because I originally I was a basketball player. I'm not joking about that. I when I was 7 years old, I started playing basketball. I started watching because basketball for us was on at like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. because of the time difference. So I would stay
it's
up.
Like when I watched the Olympics, because I remember watching Sydney Olympics at like midnight when I lived in Canada.
But when I was a child, I could stay up late and I didn't have responsibilities. So I would watch. Yeah, it was awesome. I would either VHS record it or I would watch it. And
did you have a team? Well, you said the Hornets.
The Charlotte Hornets was my team. And I had a basketball ring put up in our yard and everything. And
it's called a hoop.
I taught a lot of people my age the rules of basketball because they didn't know because it was not a thing there.
It's kind of like, I mean, obviously soccer is by far
that's the national sport,
and it's by far outside of the U.S. the biggest sport, and I think it's because other countries don't have baseball, basketball, football like we do here. And I'm sure kind of how soccer was for you was kind of like how basketball was for me. Like I was entrenched in it.
I feel like you guys have a lot more sports than we do because the two sort of big ones back home are football, soccer. And rugby. And
rugby's pretty similar to American football.
I
mean, there's differences. I
it's
understand,
definitely a little rougher around the edges than American football. I would say.
I could see how you can have that instead of having American football.
Yeah, I mean it's but I really like basketball. So which is weird for a very short, fat white person. So I basically kind of convinced the people in our school that we should have a basketball team. And I talked to the PE teachers and stuff like that, and because we didn't really do much around that, and so I was captain of our basketball team at school for 5 years.
How good was that team?
5 years solid. We were shit, and
we won exactly one game in 5 years.
It got to the point where at one point I remember this vividly. At one point we were losing the game so bad that we would. It just looked like a comedy movie. Like we were just rolling the ball to each other on the floor, just having a ball, like having a great time. It was fucking ridiculous that we were still playing at this point. It was like the score was like 70-30 or something, and we were just like.
So you were the team I played in middle school that we destroyed.
Probably.
When I played.
But yeah, so I did that, and then I also played for a county team for a little while, and we went to this. There was this Adidas did this kind of UK basketball camp thing. I got picked for the all-star team on there. So I was
you
not
weren't bad.
No, I wasn't bad at all.
Knowing you now, it's really weird.
Yeah, it's weird because I didn't. But what happened was, and this is I feel like this is just life story time now.
Yeah.
But I have a bone, for those of you that can see. I have a bone,
he has a bone in his arm.
my... I have several. But I had this one particular bone in my left elbow that dried up. So the doctors say anyway. It dried up and a piece of it chipped off. And then that tiny little piece would get stuck in the tendons that connect my elbow. So what would happen is if I would extend my left arm too fast, it would lock. And then it would stay like that for months until it kind of got calmed down. All the
you couldn't just punch in, just like go back.
No. It would stay there for months. I had to get a sling and everything, and so I had to stop playing basketball. So I had to pick up a different hobby, and guitar was it. So bringing it all back round,
full circle.
So guitar was it. So I then wanted to be in a band, and I was in a band, and I played one show. It was fucking great. So I put this ragtag group of people together in this band. And we played this sort of, it was like not really a festival. It was like my buddy put on this kind of, I guess it was like a bonfire where there was people camping and everything. He had a farm.
You were the entertainment
a lot of farms
for something
around.
like that.
Yeah, there was a couple bands playing, but we were one of them.
The town my parents live in now, they do they live in a very touristy area, and they always have like the stage set up down there that nobody really goes to listen to them, but it's there in case you want to listen to them.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of and it was, so I mean, we had practiced for a while. We had some original songs, we had some covers and things like that. And I had the first guitar that I'd ever bought was with me. And I'd since gotten a better guitar. I used the good guitar for the majority of the performance, and I thought, you know what? If I'm to play, one show in my life,
You want to use the
I
original?
want to smash a guitar.
Yeah.
So, being myself, somewhat of a drama queen at the time, I said, if you go nuts enough for this song, I will break my guitar. And I changed out for the shitty guitar. And then they went nuts enough, and I smashed my guitar to pieces on stage. I threw it at the audience. I jumped off the stage. I went to my tent, and I ate cookies.
There you go.
That was it. That was
it.
the first and last time I ever played with a band. Because, weirdly enough, finding 5 people that think the same way about music
amen.
is really difficult.
It's weird hearing you tell it because I've not heard these stories, obviously.
No one has, apart from people that were there.
We have a very similar background when it comes to that kind of stuff. So, like, I grew up basketball. I had Tim Duncan from the Spurs. I was a big Tim Duncan fan growing up. I had a life.
It was Tim Duncan. There was
David Robinson.
That was the guy. Yep.
Yep. Twin Towers.
Robinson. Yeah.
So I had a life-size poster of Tim Duncan outside my room when I lived in Canada. So this was pre-6th grade. So it was. We moved in that house, probably was in 3rd grade. And I remember I walked by it every day because it literally was 7'1" outside there. And unlike you, the team I played on was actually pretty good. The Canadians that I played with ended up winning 5 championships in a row. I left.
That's because I wasn't on your team.
Yeah.
If I was on your team, you'd be terrible.
It would be terrible. Yeah. But it's weird because I left that because we went to the States because my dad had another job. But I played basketball growing up. I was the only 6th grader on the varsity team back in the day, and partially that's because they were going younger. I don't want to toot my own horn and be like I was fantastic because I was not, but they obviously were building for the future and they saw something in me. And my friends were so pissed because at that point in 6th grade you had 2 decisions. You could either play for the school team or they had what was called mini basketball where they played at 8.5-foot nets versus 10.
Oh,
so it's kind of like it's the jump between like kid basketball to adult basketball.
Feel like you were dunking and
yes.
everything.
So
white people.
Fun fact: I cannot hit a free throw without jumping in 6th grade. Like,
okay.
By the end of the year, I was doing it, but when I started, that was the joke. Like, by the end of the year, Keegan, Mr. Clark, who's my coach, shout out to Mr. Clark. He's like, "You're gonna hit a free throw without having to jump." I was like,
our teacher was called Mr. Kingston, and we called him Kinky.
Oh,
Yes.
So
yeah, it's
this will give you an idea of how Mr. Clark coached us. If we gave up over 50 points, for every point we gave up over 50, we had to run 2 suicides.
Okay.
Do you know what suicide is? We have to go.
I feel like I do.
You go end line, foul line, back. End line, mid-court, back. End line, other foul line, back. End line, back. That's
right.
one. That's one suicide.
Okay.
We had to run 2 of those for every point we give up over 50. There was one game we gave up 113 points. Let's just say I ran a lot that year. That game. So
when you were skinny.
Dude, I was super skinny. I was
not that you're not skinny now.
No, I grew
you're
like
way skinnier than I am.
I grew like a foot between 6th and 7th grade. So it kind of sucks because I was 4'0" in 6th grade. I was a point guard. Like I was
me too.
Teeny tiny dude.
Obviously.
Yeah, teeny tiny dude. And it was just like,
you know what we should do for one of our Friday shows? We should play basketball.
I was just thinking that when you were telling the story.
The last time I played basketball, I was drunk and I did really well. It was in California.
Last time I played basketball, I was playing with some friends that I used to work with, and some dude pushed me in the back, and I punched him in the face because he shoved me. Like,
let's maybe not do that.
So it was one of those at a pole there, and he literally just shoved me straight into the pole, and I was like, "No, you're not doing this." And we were at a church, just yelled "fuck you," and I punched him. Bad idea.
Keegan has anger issues occasionally.
Especially when I play sports.
Yeah.
But so the sports side of thing, I feel like we had a similar upbringing with that, where we both kind of had that basketball connection. And then with music, as I was saying, I grew up in a musical family.
You're a drummer though, right?
Kind of. So fun story here. My dad is in the industry. He's a drummer. His dad's a drummer. Kind of like that's just the way it was. My sister attempted to play drums. She didn't really. She was more the academic, not the musician. My brother, I think, is the one who finally stuck with drums.
Do you still play?
Do I still play?
No, does he still play?
Oh, he still plays. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Awesome.
I mean, he's really good. I've told him a few times that I think he'd become a studio drummer or session drummer. Like, he is good enough. My dad has a master's in percussion, and he's better than my dad. So my brother's and that's
how do you get a master's in percussion?
You go to school for it.
Like you learn how to bang things really good.
Yeah, he's really Hey.
Hello. Sorry, Dave.
How do you think he met my mom? That's wrong.
Sandy, don't listen to this podcast.
Listen to it. No, he's so. I'll finish my story, then I'll get into that. But I wanted to play trumpet growing up because it's loud. I'm loud.
That's true.
That's my uncle. I found out my uncle played trumpet, and the only reason I did not play trumpet is because I knew at some point I was going to have braces, and they said you can't play trumpet because you're going to go. and you can't do that very well with braces.
Okay.
So
apologies to our audio listeners.
Yeah. So you can't make that noise very well. You make the duck lips, as I called it.
Right.
You had to do that. So I was like, we'll play drums. My dad's like, I can teach you if you want to learn. That was third grade was the first year I could join band, I believe, like at school. So I joined, fifth grade. Fifth grade. It was right before I left. So fifth grade band, I joined. I actually practiced on my grandpa's original snare drum. The head had not been changed in years. It still is the same drum head. I think now, like,
nice and dusty.
You can see it all worn out. It's a Remo head. My dad works for Evans, so kind of sucks. I'm surprised. There's a reason he hasn't changed that one. He changed on his kit, but I learned on that. And then sixth grade, I went into the band again in middle school, but the band director left halfway through the year, so there's nobody to lead the band. So I kind of stopped playing then, and I fell in and out. Obviously, my dad. After sixth grade, we moved a couple times. So we moved to Austin, lived there 4 months. We lived in an apartment, didn't have a kit. We moved to California, bought a house, and then moved to New York is kind of where I picked it back up. And I'm a big Green Day fan. Like, Trey Cool to me is one of my favorite drummers to mimic. Trey Cool, Travis Barker, and Aaron Gillespie from Under Oath. Like, those are the three guys. When I played drums, that's who I idolized and watched.
And you know Aaron, right?
I know Aaron.
Yeah.
Yes, I know Aaron personally, and it was really weird when I met him. But I had the opportunity when I went when we moved to New York. Is one of the best drum clinicians is actually best friends with my dad. One of the best drum clinicians in the world. He charges upwards of over $100 an hour for a session. And I had the opportunity to play drums with him, and his studio blew me away because he videotapes you so you get form. So the first half an hour is you in front of a mirror just working on your form on a snare drum, so you get the proper technique. Then he puts you at the kit with cameras, and there's TV, so you can see yourself from all these different directions. And again, focusing on form as a thing. And I had a great opportunity with that. The only thing is I played sports, and sports trumped music. Looking back on it, I was not going to become an athlete. I mean, I was somewhat athletic. I was not the fastest kid, but I used to be able to run a mile in roughly 5 minutes. So I was pretty quick, which is why I was decent at soccer and outside midfield, because I could run for hours. Can't do that anymore.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
So, yeah. So I had that opportunity of doing that, and I kind of fell away from it. And it kind of sucks because I wish I'd kept that, because looking back on it, I would have done more with music than I would anything else.
It's one of those weird, there's moments that you look back in your life and you see this kind of fork in the road where you could have gone one way or the other, and you wonder what it would have been like if you went the other way.
But it also is one of those things where when I left home, I couldn't bring a kit with me. Like, I don't know. It's
not an easy thing to take with
no.
you. Guitar is a lot easier.
I think it's funny because my mom, when I decided on drums, my mom's like, I knew what we were signing up for because your dad plays them and we had a kit. So to give you an idea of my parents' house, when I was there, in the basement was where our drum kit was, tucked back in the corner. It's an unfinished basement, so tucked back there. They wanted to
loud as shit then.
Yes, they wanted to do a music room, but they never got to it. Right. And then in our living room was a marimba. So my dad, percussionist, played all these different things. So I can read music because of my dad. So we would go through and look at Bach and Mozart music, and I would learn it from him playing that and watching him play that. Like, I can't play the marimba. And if you don't know what the marimba sounds like, it's like a giant xylophone. It's a wooden xylophone.
The marimba is also the name of the default ringtone on your iPhone.
Yeah, that's what it comes. It's a marimba.
I know. It's fun fact of the day.
Yeah. But yeah, I loved growing up with that music background, but like I said, I kind of wish I'd kept it, but my brother is the one who I think stuck it out. And it's funny because I always wanted to be a singer. I can't sing, as you well know.
You and me both, kiddo.
I can't sing because I love being the center of attention, and to me, being up on stage in the center was fine. The reason I like drums because I was loud. Again, I could be as loud as I wanted to, didn't care. I tried being in a couple bands. I played in my youth group band. It was actually a lot of fun. We would go. Which
brings us to another thing, because you said youth group, which I'm assuming is some kind of church.
Christian. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Church thing.
Which is another big.
This is, yeah.
I wanted to get to sort of. I feel like, yeah, we're diverging a little bit, and I feel like this is an important part to bring up. So you did grow up in the church, correct?
No.
You didn't grow up in the church?
No. I joined the church.
Fill me in then,
I joined the church.
What were you doing in youth group?
I
just showed up one day.
Yeah, I went to youth group later on. So my story when it comes, so I'm a religious person, as you know. Now I am. I wouldn't say
less religious than you used to be. Would you say, or more?
I was never. I mean, I'll tell my story, and this is why I think it'll make sense.
Go for it.
So my parents were the type of parents that would take me to church, but because we moved so much...
Take me to church. Sorry, I fucking love that song. Carry on.
So my parents would take me to church, and I never really wanted to go because you had to wake up early on Sunday. I hated it. Nobody likes to wake up early on Sunday.
I agree.
And it was just one of those things where, like, we would go, but we moved so much that we wouldn't find a church to stay with. And again, once we left...
It is important, isn't it, to have kind of... Because church is a big community sort of thing, so in order... Yeah, I could see that being a problem.
So two things happened. One, when we were in one of our churches in Canada, actually it's one that was right across the street from our house. Story I've been told, I was very, very young when I was told this, but apparently the preacher was a quote-unquote Satanist. Oh. I don't know if that's true. I know...
He was in the wrong line of work.
Yes, I don't know. I don't know. I just telling you what I've been told.
What?
He focused on going to hell and that kind of stuff versus the love aspect of things. So the the brimstone and hell, the fire.
How does it make him a Satanist?
Because he's come out and again I don't know the full facts.
Doesn't it just make him like an Old Testament styly preacher?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, this is just secondhand what I've been told. So I don't. Gotcha. I was not old enough to understand this. I just know we stopped going to that church, and that was the reason I was given.
Okay.
So whether it's a joke, it could have been a joke. I don't know.
That would be funny if they were like, "I'm not going to church anymore, Keegan." Why is that, mommy? The preacher turns out he really likes Satan a whole lot, so we're just going to move on.
So when that happened, we had an issue finding another church and never went. And then we moved so many times. So again, we moved at that point. We moved to Texas, lived there 4 months. Moved to California, looked for a couple churches. There was. At this point, I'm in middle school, high school, and my parents gave me the choice of, do you want to go or not? And
interesting.
At first they kind of forced me, and they're like, we think this is good, and it's just them looking out for me. They're like, well, this is our values. This is kind of what we want to show you, and I understand that. And I know this is really dumb, but we used to have to drive. We lived in Riverside County, had to drive to Orange County, which it's not that far physically. But traffic is a pain in the ass. It takes an hour to get to church. We then, after, I'm not going to say the name of the church, but we stopped going to that church because it's just too long of a
Preacher
commute.
was a Satanist?
No, it's just too long of a commute, and we're like, it's not worth it.
Okay.
Which sounds real bad. Then we went to another church closer to us that was more my speed, is more contemporary. The issue my parents had with it was, we called it religiotainment. So here's a prime example.
Okay.
So it's a lot of lights, a lot of flashiness. Probably what you know
as a mega church.
Yeah, as the big church. They weren't that. I mean, they're 5,000.
Ted Haggard.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So they weren't that big, but they had that feel to them. They had a Starbucks connected to them. So like they had a Starbucks at the church. So the point where
Coffee with Christ.
Yes, the point where my parents kind of was like, this is not good, was if you invited a friend to church and they registered, like saying they went there, you got put into a drawing for a Harley and an Olivia Newton-John concert.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's when it's one of those things like,
that's a cult.
Are you here for the right reasons type thing. That was their thinking behind it. So we stopped going to church in California. Then we moved to New York, and I was not a church guy. At this point, I could care less about God. I could care less about religion. I just kind of lived my life.
New York will do that to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my neighbor, who she lives behind us, but there's a path like between our house so we could connect. She was a year younger than I was. She invited me to church, to youth group, a couple times just to hang out because we were friends. Like, cool, let me go have fun. Like, I was invited to like bingo night. Like you had the nights to kind of draw people in, and then you had the normal nights where everybody hang out. And I did that a few times. I didn't really go. I was like, whatever. And then 11th grade, I tried to commit suicide.
Wow.
So we're about to get real here.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I tried to commit suicide.
I did too once, by the way. So, twinsies.
Twinsies. So
that's a really horrible thing to do that for. That's a weird reaction to have to that, but yeah.
That's what
sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
So the two things happened. One, I remember I tried to hang myself.
Oh wow.
I was unsuccessful. I had the sweatshirt and the knot came out. Thank God. But
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh. I'm just like, that is so something that would happen to you. Okay,
yeah, great thing to fail at. So I don't know if you did this, but when I sent out a bunch of messages to texting was the thing at this point because I was a little bit older. This is high school. Yeah, high school. And I sent messages out to a bunch of people, and Megan, I won't say her last name, but Megan responded. I remember waking up and seeing that. To this day, I owe her a lot. I love her to death. We barely talk anymore, which sucks, but she is a very important person to me in my life, and whether she knows it or not,
because she's the one that made you not do it, or not?
No, she was there when I kind of came to, and I was like, "What? I need help."
Okay.
So two things happened. One, that happened, and I don't know why. My parents had bought me a Bible again because that's how they grew up, and I had it sitting next to my bed, and I immediately just opened it up to Genesis and started reading, and it was one of those things where like maybe there's something here.
Okay.
Maybe there is something bigger than me. Maybe
so you were at rock bottom. You're under rock bottom.
I hit the lowest point in my life I'd ever hit.
Rock bottom was up there.
Yeah, I had.
And you
saw
a Bible and just started reading it.
The reason I tried to do it is the dumbest thing because like I had just broken up with my girlfriend. I was stressed because of school and like stupid shit. But it all piled on. I was like, this is the end of your emotional teenager, end of the world. And
looking back, do you think this is going to sound really weird, but do you think you really were genuinely trying, or do you think it was more of a cry for help?
I think it was more a cry for help.
Okay.
I mean, I think if I wanted to, I could have done it. Because I used a sweatshirt.
That happens a lot, I think, where people kind of like it's almost like more of a gesture than it's like this like, is how I'm fucking low I am right now.
I'm gonna do it,
but it's not necessarily like because I mean anyone could just like pick up a gun and blow their brains out if they really wanted to.
Except
but there's a certain theater to a teenage, you know, not stage suicide, but a kind of a teenage.
This is
cry
where
for
I'm at.
help.
I need help.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point to bring up. I think.
Yeah. So at that point, again, I was like, okay, maybe there's more to this. I reached out to Becca, who was the neighbor who had invited me to the youth group before. Started going for different reasons, kind of like more intrigued this time and more interested in what it was.
Actually looking to get into
a
bit of Jesus.
Yes, getting into some Jesus. And
I'm not trying to make fun.
So one of the things I want to say is
reaction.
I'm a religious person, but I don't shove religion down people's throats.
This is true.
My view on the whole thing is I will live the way I do. My mom and people that I know hate that I cuss. They hate certain things I do.
I'm really sorry, by the way, David and Sandy, because I feel a level of responsibility for that, and I assure you, it was not my intention to make your son cuss as much as he does.
That's so. Again, I live my life the way I think it should be lived, and based on the way I live, people will come to me and kind of say, "What are you doing? What's going on? How are you getting through this?" And that's just how. And I think that's
so. Religion, I would say, it's not.
It
is a part of your life, but it's not necessarily a part of your outward life. It's more an inward thing.
It's my core values.
Yes,
it's what I take. So like, I get made fun of all the time for listening to Christian music because it's so generic, and I agree. It's so generic. It's terrible. But it talks about themes of happiness, love, like these kind of things.
So do other genres of music. Just
I know,
so you know.
but
yeah,
a lot of times outside of it's sexualized.
Can be.
That's the problem I have is a lot of the music I listen to outside of it.
Hate sexualized music for what it's worth,
and
I'm a complete
atheist.
Atheist. So we'll do that after. But I don't hate sexualized music. I wouldn't say that's a strong term, but I hate the sexualization of pop music. I hate how you have like.
Well, Katy Perry used to be a gossip singer. Look at her now.
Yeah, you just have people singing about ridiculous stuff like. I want to fuck you, this, that, and the other, and sorry, David and Sandy, and and it's bothersome, more so to me because the people that are doing it are passing it off as innocence, and the people that are listening to it are innocent, and they don't even know that they're listening to this, horrible kind of degrading mess of a song. More so it bothers me because it's tonally deaf and emotionally void, but at the same time the fact that people
that's why I reached, because I used to listen in high school before a lot of this happened. I still listen to a lot of angry music. You've heard my music. It screams, it yells at me, and I love that kind of stuff, and I still to this day, Silverstein is one of my favorite bands. I love them. They actually just released a new single.
Silverstein are not yelly, right? Or am I thinking?
No, they do.
I'm thinking of Silver Sun Pickups. I always get the two mixed up.
Nope, they're way different.
I like one of those two.
So
bands.
little fun fact along. I'm going to go on a little tangent.
Go
for a second, but
you
Skillet, one of the bands I love.
I do know Skillet.
Yeah, one of the bands I loved. I liked them. I liked them before I became a Christian. Found out they were a Christian band, and they kind of, because I had this attitude growing up that Christians are pompous. Christians are full of themselves. Christians think they're better than other people, and yes, there's a degree to that, and it kind of goes with the conversation, how this all started, where we're talking about with the election kind of being this divisive thing. People have extremes one way or the other.
I think it's fair to say that it's never worth painting any group of people with the same brush.
Yes.
which is something we've talked about heavily around this election cycle.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, I mean, as an outside point of view on American Christianity, there does seem to be different levels of it. Knowing that I knew you were a Christian long before we did this show, and mostly because you played Christian music. But it was, it's something that I personally have never felt like you ever tried to be like, hey, come to the Lord or anything. So I'm kind of, I guess, grateful for that. But at the same time,
because in my opinion, it's not my place to do that.
It's also a really bad way to get anyone to go to the Lord is to beg them.
That's how I felt, because again, a lot of my friends grew up in the church, and they were. So one of the things, not to cut you off, one of the things we talked about growing up in the church is you have your faith, and then you have living your faith and owning your faith. Is one of the things my pastor and Bart, who's my youth pastor, when I graduated high school.
That is such a youth pastor name, isn't it? Bart.
He's from Arkansas.
Bart from Arkansas.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
We were in Puerto Rico, and we were on a beach, and he kind of looked at me and said, "Look," he goes, "you got two paths." He goes, "You're either gonna burn and be fucking amazing and love Jesus, or you're gonna be a train wreck and kind of get of things of the world." He goes, "That's not a bad thing, but I prefer you be on this path versus this path because of these reasons. I won't get into them because they're personal." But it just owning your faith versus living your faith. So a lot of my friends, when you ask them why they're a Christian, and I question a lot of people on this is because they were raised that way. So if I grew up
indoctrinated,
if I grew up in a non-Christian country, would I still be a Christian? I don't think so. No, it's just the way it is. But
that's a great question, and that's one that a lot of atheists ask people. If you grew up in India, do you think you would follow Hinduism? And the usual answer from a hardcore Christian is, no, I would love Jesus. And I
think it's partially because, again, it's looking for that higher power. And the way I look at Christianity is, if I'm wrong about everything, I lived a great life.
Sure.
That's my perspective. So if I'm wrong, if Jesus doesn't come back and he's just some crazy whack job out in the past,
he's a magician.
Cool. I lived a great life. I lived by core values that I think are important. If I'm right, then I have salvation. That's my take on it.
There's another version of that, which you may be familiar with the term Pascal's wager. You are familiar? Good. Which is kind of, and I definitely don't want to get into a debate about Pascal's wager in here, but the kind of thought process being that, what have you got to lose type thing. It's a very popular kind of outlook on that. Well, I may as well do it just in case, but I think the major argument that some people have against that is the fact that you do lose some things out of that, because if you are living for the next life, sometimes you forget to live in the now. This life, yep.
My problem is I live too much now.
Right. So you have
I'm on
these
now 97.
people that are genuinely excited for Armageddon, or for at least the beginning of Armageddon.
Look at all the cults that happen where these mass suicides happen because they think they're going...
Right, and that's the thing, is that a lot of people think that these kind of... Because, I mean, let's be honest, 2016 has sucked balls, like big time. It's been the worst year ever. And I think that a lot of people are starting to feel like the end times are upon us.
They always feel that way, though.
They always do. You're right. Absolutely right. But I think that there's a fascinating documentary called "Waiting for Armageddon," which is basically about these people that are they want this to happen. Yeah, they want the Israelites and Palestinians to fight, and they want there to be contention, and they think that these kind of things,
because that's their end goal.
That's the end goal, exactly. It's like, well, as soon as the world ends, Jesus can come back on a white horse, and we're all going to heaven, and that's going to be great. And so that's the stuff that kind of scares me about that, is that you don't necessarily live the life the way that you would fully respect the lives of others and your own, because you are fully committed to the idea of an afterlife and that there's something else going on after. Whereas from the alternate perspective, from the perspective of science and reason and atheism in general, we very much are scared all the time, because the biggest thing, and this is something that me and my wife had a very long talk of, because my wife would never say she was an atheist. She does now, but she wouldn't. And the main reason was she was scared of death. And
and not the unknown. That's what it all comes down to.
Yeah, fear of the unknown, absolutely. But death is something that is obviously scary. No one would deny that. But it was a case of, it was half a case of, I don't want to believe that when someone passes away that's it, I'm never going to see him again, etc., etc. But also, I don't want to believe that when I go that's it, there's nothing else afterwards. And it was kind of that I feel like, and she could answer this question better than I could, but I feel like she was always borderline. She took religious studies. She studied religions from around the world. She actually is very smart when it comes to that stuff.
Even as somebody who is a Christian and is religious, to understand other religions.
Exactly.
And not stereotype. I mean, right now, in our country specifically, Muslims are getting a raw deal. Yes, and it was the Jews in World War II. Like, understand religions, and while you may not accept them, understand kind of their thought process. My opinion on all religion, and I'm gonna get a lot of shit for saying this, but I don't care, is I think all religion came from the same area. We're all going for the same thing. I'm more of the type of person that believes there is a higher power. I believe in Jesus.
You think everyone just looks at it a slightly different way?
I think humanity kind of broke it up, because even if you look at Christianity as an example, how many different sects of Christianity do you have? And it opened my eyes when I went to Ole Miss, because I was like, in New York, you're Jewish, you're atheist, or you're Christian. That's it. You go down to the South. To
be fair, Jewish people are atheists. Did you know that?
Yeah, but they identify as Jewish people, though. Is what I'm saying. So those are three types. You go down to Ole Miss or somewhere further south, it's like, okay, Methodist, Baptist, Church of Christ, like all these different sects, and you're like, well, you chose this because you thought it sounded good, and it all comes down to interpretation. That's why, like, the Catholic Church gets a bad rep among Christians, because it's the Pope interpreting everything. And you posted something the other day where it's like the Pope on the sign. I was like,
that guy was crazy.
I was like,
yeah, that guy was like, it's just, if you follow my Facebook account, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to get into it.
Yeah.
And I agree. I do think that the difference being that I don't think that any of them are real, but at the same time, I feel like there was a starting point for this. I'm going to say mythology. Don't be offended. It's just in my brain. That's how I can cognizantly represent it.
I'm super offended.
There's this kind of starting point for this mythology, much the same as anywhere else. And if you look into the idea of like a person that was born on the 25th of December and was the son of a godlike entity, and like all these kinds of themes that run through from paganism back to, winter solstice, all that kind of stuff, then you find the same things cropping up through Egyptian gods, through, pagan gods, through all this kind of stuff. So I think you're right. I think it's kind of funny. We have some me and my wife, some of our best friends are they're Christian, but they're like kind of more heavily into the church and things like that. They attend a lot of church, and we often get into fun debates about
which I think it's fine as long as you're respectful.
Absolutely,
that's what it comes down to. I mean, you're allowed to have your own opinion on anything,
right?
That's one of the things, and this is slight tangent, but one of the things I believe wholeheartedly, 100%, is you're allowed to be you. Just don't allow your you to interfere with other people being their you.
Exactly.
They're them.
We would have these kind of debates about it, and they explained it to me because I didn't know the difference between like Lutheran and all that. And
I
stuff.
I don't care to really learn about it because I think it's all bullshit. So that's my
respect people.
I mean, I respect him, and I would love to. I would
respect him, but it's bullshit.
Here, but I don't agree with it. I guess is a better way. It's a better way to say that. It's my blunt way of saying.
Oh god, this podcast is going off on a tangent. So when I learned about that, I thought it's interesting. It's almost like you have this one guy somewhere that goes, I like all of this,
but not that
one thing. I'm gonna make a different version of that, and then it just kept happening until you have this kind of massively divided Christian community. And I think that it all eventually does just boil down to there being some kind of a need for.
If you ask somebody So I'm going to ask you, what do you categorize a Christian as? If somebody comes to you and they say, I'm a Christian, what is the one thing that makes them a Christian?
That they believe and follow Jesus Christ.
Bingo.
Yeah.
How many other fucking things get in the way of that?
Everything.
A gajillion things. Yeah. So,
but you can't be gay, but you can't eat
But
shellfish.
you can't be gay at this church, but this one will accept you. And
Yeah.
I don't want to go again. This will be.
Can't have tattoos here. Can't have them.
I don't want to go too personal with this, but there was a story I was told recently about somebody who's a leader in a church, and they agreed to not marry homosexual people. That's fully their right, in my opinion, to do that because it is a private section.
Doesn't make it right morally, but yes, it is their right to deny that.
They have the right to do that. That person did not agree 100% with doing that, but he understood why the church as a whole wanted to. Does that make sense? So it was one of those things where these people wanted to come in and say 100% this is wrong, all this kind of stuff. He's like, our Constitution, the church's Constitution, when I say our Constitution.
They have constitutions?
They do. Wow. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
The dogma?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's fun. Their Constitution basically says the Bible is the one and true word. So somewhere in the Bible you can interpret as homosexuality as a sin. And the way he put it, and I agree with him 100% with this because he's a very smart man. Again, you know who I'm talking about. I'm 99% sure. If you're not, I'll tell you afterwards.
I wasn't. I didn't, but now I'm thinking.
Do
we used to work with him?
No. I'll tell you.
I have no idea.
I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay.
Was being gay is in his eyes a sin, but it's no different than a sin than adultery or tax evasion or any of this kind of stuff. So why are we going against gay people, but we're not going against the tax evaders or people who are doing adultery? That's a whole different topic.
That's what it boils down to, though, isn't it? It's the kind of individual cherry picking that goes on of what
and I know I cherry
to believe and what not to believe.
Let's be honest. There's certain things where I'm just like I don't necessarily go against things. I just ignore things, which is not good.
Which I mean, but as I prefer that people acted like that, but chose the better parts of the Bible to follow. But having read the Bible myself, I can say that there is a lot of stuff in there I'm happy that people do not follow. But, I mean, this is you want a controversial opinion? Here's one. Westboro Baptist Church. Mm-hmm. At least those fuckers are fair with their cherry picking. They don't cherry pick at all. It is all literal. They believe every single word of it. They definitely twist it in a dark and evil, horrible way, but you could never accuse those guys of cherry picking because they will follow that thing to the goddamn T.
Yep.
Which
is the argument of, is the Bible literal? Is it a series of stories? So.
And yeah, and I think that's we're definitely going off on a tangent here,
yeah.
but as suffice to say, I grew up an atheist. You grew up a Christian. So
yeah, that's that whole half an hour, 45 minutes.
Yeah, and it was.
But it does show the difference. Again, it's different backgrounds, different people. Mm-hmm. You grew up in a country that was fundamental. I don't know if we have time, but one of the things I wanted to ask you was kind of like. Yeah.
I said fuck them. Fuck you. Listen to us.
What it was like coming to the U.S. because obviously I live in Canada.
Horrifying, to be honest.
I lived in Canada, and Canada is slightly different, but I call it America's top hat because it is very much culturally.
Or America is Canada's meth lab.
Yes. Yes. But it's culturally very similar. There's some things that are slightly different, but in general, you're so close in proximity, which I think is funny because Mexico just
completely culturally different.
Yeah, because of the older empires that were there versus Native Americans being here. There's nobody that I know of other than Native Americans in the U.S. kind of put down roots, and look what we did to them. We said, get out of here.
I think it was a little bit like mass genocide, but yeah, that's
get out of here. See that plot of land?
Get out of here, genocide.
Yeah, but I've always wondered what it's like. Because again, I came from another country, but it was not nearly as drastic of a change. What it's like coming from, because you came when you were older as well, so
25.
You were able to kind of grow up and I'm an Englishman, which you are, and then coming to another country and having that sense of I'm an adult, I know what I know. What were your feelings?
Throughout my growing up, atheism was never supremely pronounced to me because the majority, not a majority necessarily, but a good 50% of English people, I would say, are atheist and or agnostic. And it was just never a thing. It was
they just
kind
don't
of
talk about.
No, just no one just cares. It's just there were the churches in England, the cathedrals, the things like that are beautiful. They really are, and you can appreciate them for the history.
From an architectural standpoint, those things.
Oh yeah, architecturally beautiful. Like the one in Hereford, for example, the Cathedral of Hereford has the Mappa Mundi, which is the first map in the world ever. It's in my cathedral, and there's like sea dragons and stuff. It's great. It's fucking brilliant. Like, don't go there. There's dragons. But it's, I can appreciate that. And I think a lot of people in England appreciate it as an institution. But I think that they also realize that the large majority of it, especially in England, and this is way different to America when I say this, is outdated. And it is very kind of fire and brimstone and, that kind of stuff. Coming here, religion appeared to be more of a commercial commodity than anything. I remember the first time I was watching TV and there was an advert for Jesus. And when I say that, I mean that. It was just a guy that came on and said, "Hey, Jesus." I was just like, have you ever seen, the fuck was that?
Have you seen the
was my initial
that
reaction.
Says, repent to Jesus?
Yeah.
There's one in Illinois. Every time I drive past,
I've seen all those billboards. Jesus.
It's right next to Larry Flint's Hustler.
Exactly, which is, right fair play, prime position.
Like, good job.
You got your abortion billboards out here, which are horrifying to me. You have, just all these kind of, it is just in your face. And here's the thing about that. It's not just religion. Advertising in general is in your face in this country. The fact that when you drive down the interstate or whatever and you have a billboard every 30 feet advertising something, that does not happen in England. It is not allowed. You can't have that. When you're on a road, it's a lot more boring because there's no fucking signposts everywhere. But at the same time, you do not feel like you're being constantly bombarded with, imagery of buy this and, have sex with this and whatever else. So it's... when you look at religion over here, and especially where we are, which is, we're in the Bible Belt, we're in Missouri here, you have...
We're in the blue part of the Bible Belt.
Yeah.
When it comes to St. Louis. St. Louis is pretty...
St. Louis, yes.
Is the blue area, but the
anywhere
rest,
outside of St. Louis, no.
It's very red.
Yeah, very, very red. But I remember feeling personally kind of... not attacked by it, but just kind of like scared. Because... I would go same friends that I talked about earlier that we kind of have fun debates with from time to time. We were around their house one time and they had like a dinner or something and they had everyone hold hands and bow and pray. And for me that was
weird,
super weird. Yeah. My wife used to work for a company called Premier Designs, and Premier Designs is a Christian-based jewelry company. My wife, not a Christian, again, had a really tough time with a lot of their rules when it came to certain things. But we went to a conference for them, and again, on stage, everyone holding hands, swaying and kind of praying, and not that there's necessarily anything wrong with that, but as an atheist and as someone that is kind of a little turned off by that behavior, it was super weird. And I didn't want to offend anyone, so I did the respectful thing that I always do, which is I bang my head, I shut my mouth, and I do whatever. I just listen. If someone asks me to say something, like, hey, can you bless the table or whatever, I would respectfully decline and offer it to someone that had something to say. But I would bow my head and I would listen.
Which, again, it comes back to respecting other people's...
Exactly. And I've never... I don't want to say I've never been confrontational, because I have. Yeah. I owned an atheist website. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
There you go.
But like in that case, you're a guest in that person's house. If somebody came to your house, you'd expect them to follow your rules. And that's kind of how I feel when I go to these places. Like, I don't pray before I eat. My parents do, though. And I still think it's weird to pray before I eat.
I saw people praying before they ate fast food the other day.
It
blew my fucking mind.
You told me that. To me, that's not unusual because of where I grew up.
But it was just so weird. I can see praying over a family dinner table where you have your family around you, but to be two of you sat eating Raisin Canes in the mall food court and to have a pray, I'm just like, but to them that's important.
Fuck it,
all for like, them.
Thank you for giving us this food.
Absolutely. I mean, I have nothing against that. But it was weird, and it's just kind of this thing that, and there's a lot. Trust me, there's a lot more about American culture that's weird than just the religious stuff. But that was the one that hit me the hardest out of the gate, which is kind of the reason why I made that website to begin with, was because I felt not attacked, but just kind of uncomfortable, and I wondered, because I'd never felt uncomfortable before, not believing in anything, and I wondered what it felt like to be an American, perhaps that was either not believing or on the fence about not believing, or what it would be like to come out to your family as a non-believer, because you hear stories about obviously the LBGT community Q as well. Sorry, I forgot that one. Coming out to their family.
Yeah, when did they,
and
hold
then
on, when did they add a Q? Because I
semi-recently.
Okay, because
Like
I saw that on
sometime.
Facebook recently. I was like, what's...
It stands for queer or questioning. Yes.
I understood what it stood for, but I was like, when did they add... Like,
yeah,
I had the moment,
LGBTQ, just so I get that right. But for someone from that kind of background, obviously coming out to their friends, family, or whatever, it's a big deal. You can get disowned, you can get beaten, there's things that can happen. To some extent, that same behavior can occur to someone coming out as an atheist to heavily Christian parents, not even Christian parents, Muslim parents, it doesn't matter what religion, any highly religious set of parents. And so I had made a website that was basically designed to help those people. It was designed to help people that were scared of coming out to their family as non-believers.
Which we've had conversations about this, and I think I'm lucky. So I grew up in a religious house with my mom from day one. Whether if I came out as gay, she'd be fine. She said, "I will love you no matter what." She may not agree with what I choose to do, but she's like, "I will support you." And I know not everybody has that. And
blood over everything. So
Sandy, I love you. David, same thing.
Like, you know what, Sandy and David, I love you too.
They, my mom.
I mean that though. I genuinely do like you guys.
with my mom, I obviously grew up a little bit closer with her than my dad because my dad was traveling a lot, and my mom did a lot more of the teaching us things. My dad was more of the breadwinner. He was there. He's my baseball coach, and we very rarely, and still to this day, don't have very many heart-to-heart moments. When we do, it's either really weird or it's exactly what we need. Like we've had a few recently where it's like, look,
I know
we need to have these. Yeah. So it's just like it's wonderful. But my mom, like, I can say what I want. Everybody loves their parents, but like, I grew up in a fantastic house. And I will, to 100%, not choose anybody else's parents over mine because of how they raised me. And I'm proud to say that. And even when it comes to, like, a marriage, my parents, as every marriage has rocky times. And there's a few times where I thought my phone's ringing.
That's what I thought. You knew it was going to happen.
Yeah. Did I get it? There we go. Got it. Sorry. Back to the story. So, like, with my parents, there's been a few times where, I think I've told this story before. I don't know if it probably wasn't recorded, but my mom one time got in an argument with my dad and left. And I've never seen her so mad. She basically, I can't remember what she said exactly, but it was more of, I'm never coming back. And me and my sister were scared. Like,
as you would be.
My brother was a little too young to understand what was going on, but me and my sister at this point we were in middle school, probably high school at that point. And it was just, there was a good 3-hour period where we're like, what is happening? And she came back with groceries, which I love my mom because it's very much what my mom would do. She's like, I was angry, let's go get some groceries.
That is a very mom thing to do.
But it was interesting because after that whole moment, like, I've talked to her about that, and I said, look, this was later on, like, obviously not in the moment I didn't, but I was like, look, me and Kelsey my sister, were a little concerned and, like, what was going to happen. And I think her and my dad finally had a heart-to-heart and said, look, we need to figure it out because, again, I don't want to give too much personal stuff away about them because I don't know how much they're safe with, but my mom gave up her career because my dad's career path was taken off. Hers was as well. I mean, they were both at one point on track to make 6 figures each. And she gave up her career because my dad had a nice opportunity. And I don't think my dad ever really respected that, to how much of a sacrifice that was.
I think respect is the right word, I think.
Understood. He never understood how much that was until recently, I think, as he's getting older, and I think it just might be because he's getting older and it's kind of like family's important. Yeah, and we have these moments now where I told my parents the last probably 7 years of their marriage is what I want my marriage to be. They still fight. They're still human, but in the end, they're there for each other, and they're there through thick and thin. They don't always agree on anything, but they will get each other's back no matter what. And it's great to see because not everybody has the ability to look up to something like that, especially as close as that is like my parents, even if it's an outside relationship.
I admire your parents greatly because they do spend a lot of time apart, and yet they still do seem to have a very kind of loving relationship.
They lived about, I think, 6 months or a year apart on 2 different. My mom lived in California with me, my sister, my brother, and my dad lived in New York.
Yeah,
for 6 months.
That's
to a
tough,
year.
Man.
It is, and it's tough on my mom, and I know it. Like, you can tell when I call. Like, my dad, before he came home for grandma, was supposed to be on a 4-week trip, and I called home, and you can tell, not that she's lonely, but I know once my brother leaves, because my brother's still there at home. He's 17, so he's moving out next year. I know once he leaves, it'll probably be tougher. Partially because the dog that now lives with her doesn't like her as much as Dad. Thank you, Cosmo. But I've said this to their face, and as I admire what they've done, and I'm getting on a tangent of how much I love my parents, but it's true. It's one of those things where
we're opening up on this one.
Yeah.
It's been
almost an hour and a
we're
half.
still rocking it. If you're still listening, fucking bully for you. We're still going.
But it's just like one of those things where, like I said, these last 7 years, it kind of made me. I think my dad realized how important family was, and not the pursuit of money is wrong because it got us a lot of things. We got to do I got to go to Hawaii because of it. I got to do all these. I get a bunch of the music stuff I used to do, which we can talk about at some point.
I'm sure we'll get into other things. Yes.
But I could do all these because of what he's done, and I don't take the weight from that, but it does suck not having him there. But I don't like saying I didn't grow up with a dad because my parents are still married. Like they never had any issues where they got separated or divorced or anything like that. And he was gone a lot because he traveled, but I also got to learn a lot because of that. So when I joke on Facebook, you see it when I share stuff with my dad. I'm like, where in the world is David today? And he would be in Australia, he would be in New Zealand. And as a kid, I learned about geography because I'd play Where's My Dad? And there was one school project back in the day, and I think I've told you this, but we got postcards from all over the world as part of a school project. And my dad reached out to all his distributors at the time. And the goal was every week you'd calculate how many you got in and all this kind of stuff. The newspaper came in to report on us, and I had over, I want to say it's like 3,500 postcards. I'm now over 5,000. So now every time my dad goes on vacation, goes on a trip, he gives me a postcard. Second place was 500. The cool thing about all that, though, is not the fact that I won that competition. It's because I get to look at these postcards, and people would write stuff about where they lived and culture and kind of how things were different. And I'm a fan of learning. That's why I like talking to you about English culture, because you know it versus I know it from movies. Like, to me, English culture is Harry Potter.
It's a lot like Mary Poppins.
It's Harry Potter.
Oh, okay. Harry Potter.
Harry
Sorry.
Potter.
Too old.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mary Poppins too old. So it's just one of those things where it's really cool to kind of see how their marriage has developed to what it is today, to something I can look up to. And I'm going to stop talking good about my parents, but like, I don't know.
I'm kind of, I don't know. My parents always had a really, really, really close-knit, lovely relationship. They were not, never had money growing up, but they worked for everything, every single cent. My mom used to say that by the time that all the bills were paid, she'd have 50p left for herself. And my granddad, and we talked about this earlier today, my granddad did have a lot of money, and he built basically like a steel, I don't know what the real word for it is, but like a steel company, I guess, a construction company from scratch. And he, made a lot of money from that. And he passed that along to my mom and her sisters and brothers when he passed away. So for the first time, they had lots of money, just kind of out of nowhere, like a windfall of money. And what they wanted to do, and they've been waiting to do it for a long time, because Leominster, let me say this, is a miserable fuck of a town. There are really great people in that town, really great people. I would never say that I didn't meet some of the best people I will ever meet from that town, but the town itself will drag you down. And
because you're stuck in a bubble.
Yeah, it was almost like this kind of weird, sort of a little bit racist, little bit kind of nationalist, just kind of time warp. Like
an elitist feeling?
No, it was more so, it was not elitist. It was, if anything, it was underdog. It was kind of like, we are the underdogs and everyone else in the world versus us.
The Rodney Dangerfield, no respect.
Yeah. But it was kind of, there's people, and I have some friends that are stand-up comedians back home. I have some friends that are stand-up comedians here. Shout out to Keith.
I'm a sit-down comedian. Hey-o!
But, so, without the comedian part, apparently. But, I'm sorry. That was mean. But they would joke and say that they would tour up and down the country, and they would go to all these different places, and they never met a more backwards fucking place than Leominster. They would never been there. So so my mum and dad rightfully got the fuck out of there as soon as they could, as soon as they got that money, and they moved to a seaside town. And within 1 year of them being, and they bought this beautiful seaside cottage. You can imagine, I'll just say English seaside cottage with a private beach within walking distance, and you can imagine how nice that is. And they were there for maybe a year or so, and they started going on holidays and stuff. They went to Italy, things like that, and got to do all of the things that they've been waiting to do for all this time. And then after coming back from Cyprus for a vacation, my mum passed away. She got off the plane, was walking to the terminal, I guess, and just said that she had a bit of a headache, and then couldn't stand, and then they sat her down, and then she couldn't talk, and then she just went to the hospital. They just sent her straight to the hospital, and I got a phone call. I was here at the time, and it was 2011, and I got a phone call basically just saying that my dad was obviously in fucking bits. And I mean, how do you call your only son to tell them that their mum, who is in another country, is right now unable to form coherent sentences and has a bleed on her brain from an aneurysm that has, popped. And it was fucking devastating. And I remember just falling to my knees and crying. And obviously Jess was in the shower, I think, at the time. She came running out because she knew something horrible had happened, and she kind of came to comfort me. And and then 4 months later to the day, her mum passed away from cancer.
Were you working where we are now?
No, I was not.
You weren't yet.
I was working at World Market.
It was a year before then, I believe, because I remember you talking about the anniversary. Because I know that's like
I joined
one of those things where I'm just like, I'm gonna let Tom do his thing.
Yeah, I joined our current place of employment in 2012. This was 2011. Yeah. So so basically my mum died, and then her mum died within 4 months of each other. My mum, healthy as an ox, suddenly gone. Her mum been battling cancer for the second time for a long time, sort of slow fade. And the last 8 days or so of her mum's life, we were staying in the hospital, living in the hospital, which is, not a fun place to be, obviously. No. And she's contending with that because from my wife's sort of perspective, she had been building herself up with this thought that her mum was going to pass away, and being like, well, it's okay because I'll have Tom's mum, and that can be my mum now. Yeah. And then right before that happened, so that was really kind of a massive blow for us. And then my dad recently got remarried to a woman of the same name, which is weird. Little weird.
I want to know what the odds of that are.
And I met her for the first time actually just a month or two ago.
She came over with him?
She came over with him early October this year. And she's lovely. I'm happy to, sort of put that out there. Very, very nice lady. I like her a lot. And she's looking after him because my dad has epilepsy, and he needs a little bit of looking after. He is.
Wish I could have met your dad when he was here.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't have a lot of time, to be honest, and he'll come over again. But it was. Or
we'll go to a level 2 over in England at some point.
Yeah, we totally could do that.
Level 2 travels.
Yeah.
Screw local. We're going international.
Level 2 international. But yeah, so I mean, it's weird, isn't it? Because going to try and sum up a lot of what we are trying to get to the point of here, because obviously we've been going
about an hour and a half.
Little bit long.
But I think it's been a good conversation.
From basketball to playing the guitar to then rapping, which I haven't even talked about, but don't worry, there's a Friday episode coming.
There'll be something, yeah.
I
found his CD. Let's just say that.
To rapping, to moving to America by myself, to losing my mom, to losing my mother-in-law, to gaining a stepmother, to now has been just this weird journey One of my friends was sent to jail when I was younger, which was the partial spark of a nervous breakdown, which then led to my attempted suicide. Well, we were sort of on that. And, you know, had pretty bad drug habit for a while in England. Lots of money spent there on
not
that.
heavy. We're not heavy drugs.
No, not heroin or anything like that. No, just lots.
Just so people know, he's
lots of light drugs.
Yeah.
But lots of light drugs.
Yeah.
And
he's not a cokehead.
no, not at all. Never done a class A, so that makes you feel better. So there
It
you
doesn't
go.
matter to them.
Yeah, but it is what it is. But you know, obviously stronger now. And then you being kind of weird upbringing, dad all over the place, strong mother.
Yeah, the weirdest part to me is, like, I was thinking about this the other day. St. Louis is the longest I've lived somewhere consecutively, or it will be next year, which is mind blowing to me because we moved a lot. Again, my dad being there, my mom.
But you like St. Louis a lot, correct?
I do. I still miss my ocean. I've said that from day one.
Yeah, me too.
I miss my ocean.
Never had one, but I miss it.
But
Crossed one.
It's just way more expensive to live there. But no, my dad, we've followed his career, and again, he's given us great opportunities. My mom being the rock and foundation pretty much of our family. Seeing some of the sacrifices she had to give up. A few years ago, she went through cancer, and I think that they have. I draw away from them when I'm scared. They say it a lot of the times they'll know. Like my mom, it's instinct. Your parents know when something's going on, and I'm always distant from them, especially during that time when I probably should have been the closest to them. But that's how I coped with it. Of like, not that it wasn't happening, but I didn't want to believe it was happening. It was more denial, and I think after all that happened, I've had a different look on how I look at my parents. Especially my mom. I mean, my dad too. Granted, he's still working as hard as he did day one, but he's taking more time to spend with him. When he came in, he wanted to spend time with me. He's coming in on Monday. I'm going to spend time with him on Monday.
He's coming again?
He's coming in again. I can't tell why.
A couple times recently.
Yeah, I can't talk about why because it's not 100% public why, but he's coming in on Monday. And it just...
Let's hope he doesn't listen to this podcast on the way in. Eh?
He's coming in to see Grandma. I mean, that's one of the reasons he's coming in too. But there's other reasons. But it's just a weird kind of upbringing I had. Like you said, the abnormal of I've never really fit in anywhere, and I can honestly say you're probably the person I've spent the most time with ever.
Aww. Outside
of probably when I grew up from kindergarten to 6th grade with James, Will, Joel, like that basketball career.
I'm like nodding like I know who the fuck you're talking about.
That was my basketball career.
Oh yeah, James. Yeah.
That's the basketball career I played
Will
with.
as well. Yeah.
Not the James you know.
Right.
Will was real tall. He's real tall now. He's like 6'4". I was the short one of the group, but it's just weird because we come from such different backgrounds. Which is the whole premise of this. Bringing it back is we come from such different backgrounds. It's what makes us unique, but it also is what makes us great, in my opinion, when it comes to not just our channel, but life and understanding, not to give a moral lesson here, but respect other people and get to know their background, understand where they came from and what makes them tick and why they are the way they are, because you will learn a lot about somebody if you learn where they came from.
Yeah.
Period.
It's interesting you mentioned that. One of the things that we do, because I'm a trainer for the company that we work for, and one of the things we always kind of say to the people that are listening is when that customer comes up to you, you have no idea what their day was like until they sat in front of you. They could have, gone through the Starbucks and spilt 150-degree coffee on their lap. They could have, found out horrible news about a family member.
Could have just gotten engaged.
They could have just got. So you have no idea about someone's sort of background and upbringing up until the moment that you first make contact with them. And I think that for our channel especially, I think when you look at the other people on YouTube that are doing their thing, you largely only get face value. And I think that one thing that we've always been brutally honest about is kind of who we are as people, and we'll talk about things that some people won't talk about. And we channel that across into the games that we play and the reviews that we do, and we'll be doing it a lot more obviously with the podcast, and then also the local area stuff that we're doing. So it's more a case of, I think, us just wanting to put across to you guys that, you know, despite all the divisiveness and kind of horrendous, really, behavior that's been going on over the last week or two due to the election results or anything else in your life, but that's been a spark for a lot of people. I think I feel like a lot of people were having shitty times, and then that was just like the icing on the fucking cake for a lot of people.
Brought the extremes on both sides.
So this country has never been more divided than it is right now.
Except maybe the Civil War. I didn't live then, so I don't know.
I almost have felt like we're going that way to a second one.
I've thought about that too.
But I always get heartened when I talk to people about it, and they all kind of eventually everyone kind of finds a common ground. No matter what they're doing, everyone finds one. And despite our very, very different upbringings and all that kind of stuff, it's my unprofessional phone going off right now. Despite our very, very different upbringings, me and Keegan found a way to come to a common ground to bring you hopefully entertainment. You know,
but we can also have this real talk. I mean, that's the coolest thing. I think one of the things I've gathered from just sitting here, and I've learned a lot about you, I'm sure you've learned a lot about me, is just we can have these real talks, and we're not afraid to say who we are. We're not afraid to stand up for what we believe in. We're here to respect everybody, well, as best we can, but we're real humans. We are real people, and we started this because we wanted to have fun. That's all it started with, but I also think it's now turning into something where we want to have fun. We also want to have a voice. We have the potential to impact. And I've said from day one, I've wanted to do something that changes the world, whether that's a tiny, small part of the world or it's something bigger than that. That would be fantastic to do something that leaves a lasting impact on something. And this conversation's made me, as it's been going along, realize kind of what other fucking gaming channel would do this? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, we don't do mostly games. Or we do mostly games, not 100% games anymore. But
what's really kind of beautiful about it is, you know, we
spent almost 2 hours doing this.
We had no idea this was going to go this long. By the way,
literally, this episode's gonna be. I've already got the title for this. It's gonna be the shit got real. That's literally the title. But
I think we started this conversation talking about Barry when Barry came over, and I'd like to think that Barry and Destiny and Batista had a great time this morning. And even if that's the most we get out of this channel is helping them have a great 16th birthday for Barry, I'll be happy.
Oh yeah.
But if
just one person.
Just one person. But if it does turn out that more people, you know, start appreciating the content that we put out or asking us for input on various things, and we start growing a little more, then we're willing to be that voice, and we're willing to go there and just kind of like you said, keep it real and just
call people on their bullshit.
Yeah. So I mean, we are looking, because I know that one of the things we've talked about doing as well is kind of like a cultural thing where we have people from different cultures come on and we try and get to know them better for, you know, through conversation as opposed to just kind of, you know, whatever's been presented to you
through media.
This point.
Because let's be honest, media, every source of media is biased.
The media's been a piece of shit lately. So what
I'd love to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, one of the things that we've wanted to do is, you know, there are certain levels of
education that needs to be
that we both need. By being two, you know, straight white males in a largely straight white male dominated kind of world, I suppose. And we want to talk to people that are disfranchised and feel like, you know, like they don't have a voice, and give them a voice. So that's something else that we're looking into doing. So that's the future. That's the future part of the show.
I think we should just, let's be honest, we're probably going to make this a 2-part. It's going to be the beginning part of the, hey, this is what we did.
Yeah, this is a 2-part this week. And
that got, let's be honest, it got more deep than I think either of us imagined.
Yep.
So,
and we're tired too, so it's just like, you know what, fuck it. Let's just,
I just looked at the clock, and it is 5:30 or 5 13.
That was probably my wife calling. Then.
Probably.
She got some. I haven't let my dog. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I'm in trouble. Okay, so
before Tom gets yelled at.
Before I get yelled at, thank you so much if you made it through this.
If you made it to this point.
If you made it 1 hour and 44
might be a little bit less than that,
minutes,
depending on
ish, with editing. Then thank you. And if you want to put any questions to us about our upbringings, if you want to share some of your upbringing, if you want to talk about yourself in the comment section, please do it. We would love to.
Go over on Twitter, Facebook. We've got all the social media links. I mean, honestly, we're everywhere. Instagram.
We're social media'd out for days. So if you want to chat to us, we are very accessible. We've said that since day one, and we will continue to be no matter how many people we have.
For me, if you want to reach me personally, Twitter is probably the best for me.
If you want to reach me, carrier pigeon. It's the best way.
Carrier pigeon. So.
All right. So thank you again, guys, for watching and or listening if you're on the podcast. And as always,
welcome to the second level. Bye.
Bye.
You ever feel like you're being watched?
Sometimes.
I feel like there's like something about like out there. I feel like I'm being watched. It's usually Monday through Friday.
Right there?
Yeah, it's like Monday through Friday, and then sometimes like I feel like it's live on Sunday. Like there's people talking to me, and they're like, "Hey, you see you on the internet."
Are they on your head or?
I don't know. They could be.